Hello and welcome to The Editor's Eye, and we're going to be reviewing all of the Marvel films and in detail. From a professional point of view, I'm an editor working in film and TV, and today we're going to be looking at Thor: Dark World. That's the second Thor film. And first of all, a mark. And the mark for this film, it's 5.5 out of 10. Not a bad film, but not a great film, and I'll explain why in this review. I often feel with these earlier Marvel films, they're trying to find their house style. They don't yet know what they are, so they search around from other films for their references. So with the Hulk, it's the straight action movie. With the Captain America, it's the Spielberg movie. And with Thor, and even more Thor 2, it really feels like the driving influences Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films.
The noble armies of Asgard, led by my father King Bor, waged a mighty war.
You've got prologue beginnings with battles, sword fights, elves, and look, they've even brought their own cave troll. There's Star Wars there as well, and the attack on Asgard. Come on Marvel, find your own house style. The sword fighting and the swashbuckling, it all feels very old fashioned. Don't bring a sword to a gunfight. This feels retro and formulaic as well, like the Hulk formulaic. So, like Hulk, we have the rainy lovers, quirky funny scientists, cardboard cutout villains that are there just to be bad, and of course an end where you smash stuff up, preferably in a famous place. The characters and the characterisation and the relationships, though not as bad as the Incredible Hulk film, are still quite bad here. I just don't buy Natalie Portman's character as a scientist, and with her own scientific background, she ought to have known better and done better here. In the first film, she's got this van that's full of equipment that means she's a scientist. In this film, it's a box that she just points at things. It's just shallow. And then her and Chris Hemsworth have zero chemistry.
Jane.
The only bit that feels real is when she whacks him. I mean, you've got to feel sorry for Natalie Portman here. We're sold Jane Foster as central to the plot because this gunk has gone inside her, but she's not. She's peripheral. She doesn't count. You can tell she doesn't count because she's asleep for half of the second act, and it doesn't really matter. And that's a sign that characters are being used for plot rather than the characters themselves driving the plot. And films always work so much better when the characters, it's them driving the story rather than the characters having to just obey the dictates of the story they're under. So the character's not quite done right and the humour's not done right, and that's a shame because there's humour in the first Thor film, and really it's the genius of the third Thor film to realise that Thor can be a fully comic character.
You know, I used to want to be a Valkyrie when I was younger, until I found out that you were all women. There's nothing wrong with women, of course. I love women. Sometimes a little too much. Not in a creepy way, just more of a respectful appreciation. I think it's great.
Unfortunately, we've not got there with Thor 2. Here, our hero's just meant to be a romantic hero and a Tolkien-esque warrior for the most part. And the comedy is left to, groan, the comedy sidekicks. Now don't get me wrong, you can have good comic sidekicks and they can be funny.
I am Groot.
But when a comic sidekick's there just to provide flavour and colour to a scene, and also just to be the feeder for the comic lines that the writers provide, well, it's just not enough. In the first film we have to suffer Darcy as the comedy sidekick, and in this film it's even worse because our comedy sidekick has her own comedy sidekick. Groan. Probably the funniest joke, the professor in Is All Together, they show twice, once in the scene and then again on the telly later. And then they repeat the gag later in the film before actually repeating it immediately again.
I better get my pants.
It's funny, but when you've not got much else, these bits smack of comedy desperation.
Darkness returns, Asgardian. Have you come to witness the end of your universe?
Christopher Eccleston, what are you doing? I mean, the acting just in the whole film is below par. I mean, take Anthony Hopkins, who's obviously a very good actor, and ends up sometimes just shouting in a ridiculous way.
Your birthright!
Now, when you're acting, it can feel good to shout sometimes, but in the edit suite, you're generally careful not to use the louder takes, the shoutier takes.
What help were you in your cell?
Who put me there? Who put me there?
You know damn well.
It's just a crude way to turn the emotional volume up to 10 really, and it doesn't leave you many places to go in a scene. And it can also turn an audience off, but you get that quite a few times in this film.
He's not my father!
So the acting's not quite there, and the story's not either. It's a bit ropey. All the business with the ether and just hiding it in a slab of concrete somewhere. And Natalie Portman just touches it and it gets out. I mean, really well hidden. And Thor's whole plan to attack Malekith while he's getting the ether, it just doesn't actually work in the end. It just seems stupid and pointless. And then probably most of all, the climax. Some of it looks really second unit Doctor Who. And then worst of all, these portal holes appearing sort of almost at random in all sorts of various places. It's classic Deus Ex Machina. You can hear the cogs and the gears of the script turning. If the script writers want to kill Malekith by having a ship land on him, they can just do that. Things aren't happening because of the characters and their feelings and their motivations. It's a really unsatisfying climax. It just feels like random stuff's happening. Take a small scene towards the end of the film where the characters look at some birds in the sky, and one of our characters, for no particular reason, just starts explaining about them.
It's called a murmuration. My dad, he used to take me bird watching as a kid.
We don't care. We don't care about the dad, we don't care about the bird watching. So what's it doing here? Seems like this is always a warning sign in a film that the filmmakers aren't really thinking about the characters and the people in the film, but just on things to explain the plot or give some nice visuals. I'm not saying it's a terrible film, it's not a bad film, it's got its moments. Loki's probably the best thing in it.
Now you see me, brother.
It keeps moving, it's got a kind of sense of scale, it's entertaining, it's kind of goofy, until the last act when it really kind of falls apart. So one of the weakest of the MCU films, but in popcorn terms, not a bad watch. That's the end of my review. Thanks for listening.